Despite the huge number of restrictions imposed on the Russian Federation, tens of thousands of them, one industry remains untouched. Russia continues to earn billions of dollars from no one but the United States, selling it nuclear fuel. So why won't Washington shut down this source of funding for an unwanted Russia? And why does America itself recognize that the US is doomed to be dependent on Russia for this? Let's get to the bottom of it. The Americans were one step away from a real energy catastrophe, but they came to their senses in time and, in fact, chose dependence on energy resources from Russia, which is unfriendly to them. The point is that Moscow controls about 35% of the global enriched uranium market. Russia does not need as much uranium for domestic consumption as it produces in the country, so most of it is exported, and not anywhere but to the United States. The United States nuclear power industry is the largest in the world in terms of electricity generation. Thus, at the moment, there are 93 nuclear power plants in the country with a total energy capacity of 95 gigawatts. At the same time, this is 1/5 of all energy produced in the country, and the share of Russian fuel is about 20%. And here's what U.S. Assistant Secretary of Energy Hoff has to say about it. U.S. dependence on uranium imported from Russia poses great risks to the country's energy security. Well, if we give up Russian fuel, then we will have to shut down some of the nuclear power plants that run on it, and that would mean reduced generation, shutdown of consumers, reduced production, and hello, another crisis. Now the US economy is not in a very good condition, and it may not survive such a blow. Here's what experts in the U.S. say about its suspension of power generation. U.S. nuclear power plants will ricochet on electricity tariffs. It is for this reason that U.S. President Joe Biden is in no hurry to include the uranium embargo in the package of anti-Russian sanctions. So why does the U.S. depend on Russia so much? After all, they are ahead of the planet, aren't they? In fact, the reason for this dependence is America's lack of uranium enrichment technology. Russia is rightfully the leader in the production of enriched uranium, and in fact, there is nothing surprising in the success of the Russian Federation. The groundwork for technological advantage was made back in the USSR, when specialized gas centrifuges were developed, and at the moment, it is the Russian Federation that owns 40% of the world's uranium enrichment capacity. But the USA is very sad in this respect. The country has lost uranium enrichment technologies, and in 2014, the last plant closed. And this is how the dependence on uranium fuel from the Russian Federation was formed. But all the most interesting things will be ahead. After all, if the consumption of uranium-235 remains at the same level as it is now, the explored reserves will be sufficient until 2040. And then that's it. It is necessary to switch to the so-called closed nuclear cycle. Well, only Russia has this technology in the world, and no one else. This means that Russia will soon become the absolute hegemon in nuclear power, and all other countries will either put up with it or completely abandon nuclear power plants. And since nuclear power takes the larger share in the US energy sector, it will not be possible to give up, and dependence will only grow.